Hey guys, it's Jim with V-Strom Garage. Today we're going to be working on the 2015 V-Strom 1000 and we're going to be doing some fork seals, so let's get to it. Alright, so here's our little leaky fork seal. First thing, before we raise the front wheel off the ground, we're going to loosen up all these nuts, or at least the front wheel axle and the brake calipers. So we're just going to back those off. Then we're going to back off the 12mm bolts on both sides of the calipers, and then we'll get the front wheel up. And this is a 30mm socket for the front axle nut. You can also watch my wheel removal tutorial too. I got a video for that one. If I don't cover everything on this. Remember, pull them off the little studs and then twist it. Make some pads go in easier later on. Okay, so we're going to take the ABS sensor wire off. So there's an 8mm bolt right here, and the 8mm, whoops, let me get it in frame. This 8mm for the actual sensor, and then this one for the wire. So we're going to take both those 8s off. The next thing we're going to do before we lift the front off the ground is we're going to loosen up this top triple tree pinch bolt, and we're going to loosen the fork cap just a little bit. And before we loosen that fork cap off, we're going to see where our preload is set and how many clicks out our rebound is on our cap up here. I'll show that to you when I get it off. But what you want to do is count how many clicks in on the rebound, and you're going to turn it in clockwise until it seats. And then you'll know how many clicks out once we put everything back together. And I'll explain that more as we go. And on the preload, there's like little lines on there, so you can kind of just count those. And my hand's probably in the way, you probably can't see it. But anyways, anything that we're going to be putting some torque on, I want to loosen up first before we get the wheel off the ground, because sometimes it gets a little more unstable. We're going to turn the rebound in and see how many clicks. I don't know if you guys have picked that up or not. But 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're 4 in or 4 out from the stiffest setting. So now we're going to just back it all the way out. So about almost 15 clicks out is full soft. I think stock, it's 8 clicks out from full stiff. So now we'll get a little socket on that preload, and we'll take the preload off from there. Okay, so we got 3 lines showing on the preload over here. So we'll go ahead and back that all the way off. It's a 14mm. So that's that. So now we can go ahead and loosen up that pinch bolt, and then we'll get that cap loosened up. So this is a 6mm Allen on all the pinch bolts. They're only torqued to like 17 foot-pounds. And I'll give all the torque specs again at the end of the video. Alright, so that's loose. So now we'll get that fork cap off. We'll put a little bit of this blue paper in there and see if it'll go on. Yep, we'll give it a try. This one I need a 1/2 inch wrench. So I'm going to hold the handlebar. It shouldn't be very tight at all. Just give it a couple turns. And that'll be good until we get the fork leg all the way out. So, yeah, with the rear wheel on, I couldn't get the front tire off the ground enough, so I just popped the rear wheel off. And you can see the front wheel's off the ground. And yeah, this will make it a lot easier. Alright, so we're going to loosen up these pinch bolts for the front wheel. So when you're loosening is just loosen them up a little bit. Do the other one, loosen just a little bit. Back and forth. And we'll do the other side. Pinch bolts are loose. Alright, so next thing we'll get the front fender off there. On each side we got two 5mm Allen. One there and one right up here. And if you have the reflectors on here, you gotta take that 10mm nut off there. That's all loose from the fork leg now, so like technically you could do one side, put it on, put the bolts back on, and do the other side. That's going to go ahead and take it off. Alright, so those bolts are out. Now I just got to release the brake hoses. I guess I could have done that first. I was still bolted in, pretty easy. So we got that one. There's one little plastic clip. You kind of reach in there and pop it out. I need a little flat blade screwdriver. And the front fender's up. Alright, see the leaky fork seal now. Actually, it looks like the right side is actually leaking a little bit too. That's a good thing. We're going to change it. So, next thing we'll do is we're just going to do the left side first. So we're going to do these two pinch bolts. Again, like any pinch bolts, when you got two of them, just do a little bit at a time, each one alternating. So let's go ahead and get that off, and we'll drop that fork lid off. And these are 6mm also. And these are also 17 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, so our top bolt's already loose. So we can go ahead and start dropping these in. And that's it. Fork leg is out. Okay, now it's time to take this fork cap off. So that's our, and we're going to get a special tool to press the spring. So right now we're just going to go ahead and drain this oil out of here. Yeah, fluid still looks pretty clean. What's it show? There's only a little over 17,000 miles on it. Alright, so we'll let that drain for a minute, and then we'll get that cap off. Alright, so these are our special tools that we're going to use to compress the spring. So basically what it's going to do, oh, you're not going to see it, hold on, so I need to go out a little wider, otherwise I'm talking to nobody. Alright, so this will go over here, then you screw these two things in evenly as possible. And so we'll get those pretty snug. Okay, so that gives us the ability to push that spring down. And I'll probably have to have my wife come out here and hold this up and put this tool in. So basically this tool, once it drops down, there's a little metal retainer right here. We'll slip this in between this and there's a jam nut that holds this cap on. So that'll go in there and hold that, then we can get the jam nut off, we can take this cap off, and then we can get the whole assembly out of there. Alright, I got my secret weapon here. I got my wife to help me. So, we got our tool on here. We got it screwed in little holes. I'm going to push down and she's going to put that tool in between this little cap on this spacer and then the jam nut on the cap. So hopefully you guys will see this. Okay. Alright. So let me come a little closer. You can kind of see what it's supposed to look like. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to loosen this lock nut, jam nut, whatever you want to call it. And then we can get this top off and then we can release the spring. And these don't get torqued very much. This jam nut's only like 11 foot-pounds. You can also hold the nut at the top too. Okay, so just get it loose, that's all it needs to be done. Then you can just take it out by hand. You got that tool in there, so it's not going to come off. And don't drop it. Alright, cap is off. So, now I'm going to push this back down, have her remove this tool. Actually, I can take this damper rod. This is the inner damper rod. Okay. So, you can pull that tool out. And slowly raise it up. That's how you can make sure you don't lose this cap off from here. It can come off. So you can just leave that just like that. Then we can go ahead and take our spring out and set that in the oil thing. Put a little oil on there. So notice the way we took it out. It starts getting a little taper as it goes up. So, I'll give you an idea. So, I was thinking the tighter coils were at the top of this, but actually the tighter coils are at the bottom. And it's got a little taper towards the top. Okay, and this is the damper rod. So we're still going to have oil in here. To get to your seals. So I'm going to work this rod and get the rest of this oil out. I should have put my gloves back on, but I didn't. Now the damper assembly that goes in there, you don't need to take that out to just do the fork seals. That's only if you're rebuilding the whole fork. So there's another special tool for that, which I don't have. Leave that like that for a moment. Thank you. That's good enough for right now. We'll go ahead and separate these fork halves. After I get all this oil on my hand. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this dust seal off here and start getting all the clips and everything out of there. Alright, I'll get this dust cap off here. Got a little flat blade screwdriver. Work that around. Got a little clip in here. Take a little clip out of there. And the next thing is the fork seal itself. Just like that. Get a better angle on this thing to show you guys that before we split these apart. The dust seal, you got a little snapping in there. So we're going to use just a little flat blade to get in there and pop it off. Alright, so the dust seal and the snap ring is off there. So now we're going to pull these suckers apart. And move the camera so you can see it this time. I don't think I showed it on the last one. So once you get those off, you see it, just like that. That's all there is to it. Make a note in the order that stuff goes on, because you don't want to put it in backwards or not forget to put something on. Sometimes we pull that back apart, you can damage the seal, so you don't want to have to order more of those. Now we can go ahead and start taking all these off here. Let me put that back to the camera. I can't see nothing, can you? And I'm slapping. There, maybe you can see something now. So when we're taking this apart, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at these bushings for wear. This bushing here. So we got to slide all these off there so we can get the old seal and the new seal on. So I just take this and then just kind of got to get that separated just to, I don't know if you can see that or not. Might be out of frame again. Come on, Jim, you're better than that. Alright, you see it now? So you got this little bushing right here. You kind of get your fingernail in there. Get the little flat blade and just spread it apart just a little bit, just to slide it up over this tube. Don't bend it too much, you don't want to. Put all this stuff laying down. So we'll go back on this way. Okay. Put this stuff in order. Put it in order when you're taking it off too. There's our seat washer. So the rounded part of this washer that the seal sits on goes to the bottom. The flat part actually is on the seal itself. And then our fork seal comes off. Our little circlip thing that holds the seal in, and then the dust seal. wiped off here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and work that thing, get some more of the oil out of there before I go any further. I got me a little piece of wire hooked onto this thing. I think you can see that. So I just kind of wrapped it around the rod below the nut there. Makes it a little easier to push it all the way in and pull it out. And you can use this to, when you're going to pull it up, put the cap back on later too. Yeah, it's still oil coming out. It takes a minute for sure. They make a little tool that screws onto that rod, so you got some more levers. But I don't have one of those. I guess I'll get one sooner or later. This isn't one of those jobs you do constantly, so unless I'm working on a ton of these, I probably won't buy it. You'll know when you got all the oil out of there because your damping rod will just, should pop up and it'll go down. There's probably still a tiny bit of oil in there. Well, like I said, this oil is really not that bad. Let's say you can keep working it a little bit if you want, but that's a little bit more coming out. Yeah, we'll get everything cleaned up and get the new stuff out and we'll get her put back together. All the oil's out. I took the outer tube here and sprayed a little brake cleaner in there and pushed one of these blue towels all the way through a couple times. Make sure everything is cleaned out. So now we're going to wipe the actual slider tube off real good. We're going to check for any nicks or anything that could have scratched the tube. And so the best thing to do is use your fingernails and just feel for any thing that could snag it. More than likely it was just some dirt up in the seal is why it was leaking. So I don't see there's not any nicks in there.